Back to another episode of MJ's Progress Not Perfection. Today's guest is Irene. Irene and I met in high school. We did go to school together. I think we hung out like once. We talked. Well, I don't think we can really get into it on this interview. But yeah, we definitely had the same kind of friends and we knew the same people. But we didn't really like intertwine, I guess you could say. But we get into all that though. Her story is her story, and that's the whole point of Recovery Month. Is everybody has a different story, because there's a lot of different people out there that can relate to a lot of different things. So I know this is going to be one that there's a lot of people out there that's going to be able to relate to what it was like finding drugs and alcohol at teenagers and going all through high school, addicted to drugs. I know she's not the only one. I know she's not the only one that I've talked to. So, this is a very, very raw interview of what it was like for her, between the ages of, really 14 and 19 is what we mostly cover for her years. And it's an intense time for her. And we get into all that. And I hope you enjoy listening or watching as much as I enjoy talking to her.
Welcome to the show, Irene.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate you taking the time to sit down and chat.
Absolutely.
So, like we said, I haven't seen you in like 15 years.
I know.
And I didn't know then, because I was just, a dumb 20-year-old getting drunk.
Yeah.
I didn't know then that you were already in the thick of an addiction.
Yep.
So I guess let's get started from the beginning, as in, where did you see drugs growing up or alcohol growing up? Did you
So that's what's wild is I didn't. My dad, he's an alcoholic, but he wasn't really in the picture very much. I was raised by my mom and my stepdad, both of whom I don't know about their past, but from what I have ever experienced, seeing them from my earliest memories, they didn't do any drugs. They weren't heavy drinkers, and there was really never any drug use in my family that I'm aware of. I guess as an adult, I never asked the questions like, did you ever, but yeah, I was really never exposed to it.
Okay. Well, that kind of makes sense, because I was never exposed to it either. And then,
Yeah.
I found it, because,
Yep.
I was curious.
Mhm.
And I was the oldest, so I was bound to be the one to make the mistakes first, so that my siblings didn't have to make mistakes that I made. So, I was trying everything that I could.
Mhm.
When did you first either drink or use? What did you do first?
So I started. I took a pill of some kind, and I wish I had better memory and a better that it was chronological in my brain. But when I look back on it, it's kind of jumbled up. So I'm going to try and stay as linear as I can. But it was definitely pills of some kind, Percocet maybe, something like that. My boyfriend at the time, he got a hold of some, and he was like, it makes you feel super good. Try it. And I was down for whatever. At that point, I hadn't even I didn't drink yet. I hadn't drank yet. I didn't smoke yet. This was my introduction. And I took it, and it was incredible. I was like, this feels so good. I was so happy. I was talkative. My body felt good. The body high was incredible. And I wanted to experience that as much as I could.
And how old were you?
I think I was 13 or 14. And then shortly after that, I started drinking, because pills weren't easy to get a hold of. But I liked the feeling of being high. Alcohol was easier to get a hold of. And although I had never drank, I knew that if it was going to alter my mind in some way, that I was going to be down for it, And the first time I got drunk, was me and 3 other friends. And it's actually funny because we met up at where you used to live in that parking lot. So you probably know the people because I believe one or two live there. And they had both since passed, rest their soul. And we had a bottle of vodka, a water bottle of vodka, and a bottle of orange juice. And we just kept taking swigs of it. It was disgusting, but we just walked and drank it. And which is so stupid to think back on because I was just taking mad shots of vodka at like 13 or 14. And, you know, it doesn't hit you right away. But I was like, I don't want to risk it. Like, I don't want to do too little, you know, because it's gross. Like, I want to, like, you know, and by the end of that bottle of us splitting it, I was so drunk. And we ended up going into the Pizza Hut that was there. That it's like a bank now or something. And I don't really remember like in the Pizza Hut because we were so fucked up, but I guess like I fell or one of the girls that I was with, she spilled like soda everywhere. And I guess the employees called the cops on us. And the cops, my family they are cop associated, you know, a lot of them are cops. I grew up with police officers and, you know, of our town, and they knew who I was. And he was like, get in the car. They put us all in the car and he was like, get in the car. I'm taking you to your mom. And I was just like, damn it. And then I got home and I was drunk and my mom could tell. And I got grounded for like ever. And so I took a little break, you know, but I knew that I liked being drunk. I was like, oh, this is cool. But it wasn't something that like, it wasn't as good. It would be a good filler, you know, if I couldn't get a hold of anything, I'd be like, all right, you know, but like, it wasn't my thing, you know.
It'll fill the void.
It was like a backup
literally.
plan. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But then we ended up getting a steady connection for pills. Now, it didn't matter what it was. I just knew that we were either going to be paying 50 cents or $1 a milligram, you know, whatever it was. Percocet, Vicodin, you know, hydrocodone, whatever. And we ended up getting a steady connection. And this is the same friend that took me out drinking. He ended up being our steady connection. We are going to meet with our dealer. And I remember it clear as day, my first time. We met him on the train tracks. And he was like, look, I couldn't get a hold of any pills, but I got something better. And, you know, he was shysty anyways, you know, sometimes when it came to like not delivering product, not delivering enough, you know, taking money, whatever. But my boyfriend at the time, he was pretty intimidating. So people didn't really fuck with him. And he was like, just trust me. Just trust me. And we're like, you know, he gives us this bag. And it was like, you know, like a dime bag, but it had, you know, it was flat and it, you know, it looked like nothing, like powder was in it, but, you know, like in the cellophane, you know, like in the wax.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we're like, if you are fucking us, you know, we're going to kill you straight up. You know, we had given him a lot of money, you know, and expectations. I think we were getting Oxycontins, and which at that point in my addiction, and I would say I was probably about 15 at this point, oxys were what I was always looking for, Oxycontin, you know. And he was like, this is the equivalent. It's even more potent and it's cheaper, you know. And we're like, you better not be fucking with us, you know.
So he had a refund for you?
Yeah, basically, he was like, here's this and here's the money.
Yeah, here's some money back. And then,
right.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And we're like, all right. And he called it, he didn't call it heroin, though. He called it diesel.
I was going to guess China White.
Nope, yeah. He called it diesel. And And now this is a time where you can't just hop on your phone and look up what diesel is. I can't just hop on my dial-up computer that's in the middle of my living room for my whole family to see.
2004?
Yeah, I don't even know, but
I mean, if you were like 15,
yeah,
I'm trying to think. I was like 17.
yeah.
So, yeah, it was like early 2000s. Yeah, we were.
Yeah.
It wasn't, smartphones weren't even popular.
No, I don't even know if I had a phone at that
No,
point.
I did not. Yeah.
And so he was like, but this is some serious shit. He was like, you're going to take this bag, it's powder in it. You're going to cut it up into 4 equal lines. He said, start with half of one of those lines. Let it hit you and see if you can do the other half. And I'm like, no fucking way. I'm like, no way. But whatever, I'll do it. So we go back to the spot that we were going to do it at. And I did exactly as I said, exactly as he said, took half the line. It took 5 minutes for it to, not even 5 minutes. It was minutes where it kicked in. And I was like, oh my God, this is incredible. I had never felt a high like that in my life because it was just so powerful. And it's not the high that lingers with you. It's that first initial when it like hits you. That it can't be peaked, like it's the ultimate.
Yeah.
And it tasted awful. The back drip was awful. And it made me puke, violently puke. But I felt great. And it was from that moment on where I was like, this is it. This is what I'm going to be doing. And still didn't know what it was. So when you open up the little plastic dime bag, you pull it out and it's like a wax paper and then it has like a stamp of some sort on it. And it'll say it'll have like boxing gloves on it, or I'm trying to think of like what they had. One of them ironically had like a tombstone on it or like a coffin on it, which is like so ironic and so fucked up. But that's how you could tell what was, because we would hit Camden, when you would hit, everybody would talk around and be like, oh yeah, Tombstone's the best shit out right now, or Coffin's the best shit out right now, or Knockout's the best shit out right now. And that's the only like ones I can remember right now. But you would try and hit those blocks to get, the most potent shit, which was likely cut with fentanyl or something. And yeah, I rarely ever went into Camden. It was always my boyfriend and our friend that went. But we would try and get it in like bundles so that we didn't have to go so often. But yeah, that was.
How are you affording bundles at 15?
I was working at a pizza place in Oak Lynn.
Okay.
And I was getting paid under the table. And you know how when we first started talking on this, how you said like I never knew, that you were in addiction. I had no idea. And that was the thing, like I didn't look like your average like junky looking kid. Like I looked nice, I wore nice clothes, I took care of myself. I was never like nodding out and shit, like I really tried to keep it a secret, so much so that my parents didn't even have any idea. Eventually they started getting an idea, but it took years. The only reason that people got suspicious of me is because I was hanging out with the crowd that was notorious for that. Okay. And that's how people would be like, that's kind of weird, that you're always hanging out with this crowd. So
yeah, if you're hanging out with them and not doing anything, that would be weird.
Weird, right.
So if you're hanging out with them and it would be most likely you're doing shit if you're hanging out with them, because it'd be weirder if you weren't.
Right. Like
they wouldn't be inviting you into their circle if you weren't getting high with them.
Exactly. So I was getting high every single day. I mean, I can't think of one day that we went without it. I really, really can't, huh?
You were like 15. What, a freshman?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Every single day.
How were your grades?
They were good. So they weren't the best. They could have been better. But they were good. They were passing, and ironically, the only time I ever really did bad in school was the year before I started using. I failed 8th grade fucking geography and had to go to summer school, but I was sober at, like I was fine then. My grades were good.
Okay.
Certain classes were better than others, but yeah, they were good. I was good. There was no reason to be suspicious, I didn't cut school. I cut school, like whatever, but I didn't like miss school a bunch, like I would just get high in school. I'd be getting high in the bathrooms, like didn't care. I'd always had it on me, no matter what. And
well, I guess it's easier to conceal that and do that than like smoke weed in school or smoke a cigarette in school.
100%.
Like, or drink, you're gonna smell. Like, so if you just like, do a little bit of a line.
Right, exactly.
And then if you're nodding off, you're like, that girl needs to get some sleep in.
Right. Let's let her go to the nurse's office and take a little nap. Yeah, I have really bad allergies too. So anytime like people would be like, man, like your eyes look heavy or something, I'd be like, yeah, my allergies are so bad today.
Like,
and people wouldn't even question it. Right. What, this is an allergy season for everybody? Which is, I'm kicking myself in the face now because now I actually really do have really bad allergies and I'm sober, and it's really like making didn't make a liar out of me. Like that's really how my face is now. So
no, I hear that because I always say I'm not allergic to anything like medicine wise, but really I break out in hives from V-cut 30s.
Wow, really?
Specifically the V-cut Roxy 30s, I always broke out in hives. My face would get all blotchy, and every single time. I mean, it never stopped me.
Right.
It would always like, hey, you good? What kind you got? V's? Fuck. Okay, I'll see you in 30. Like, it was always just like, it's going to happen anyway.
Right.
Like,
that was something to say to doctors if you actually had an allergy, because then they would prescribe you Percocet, which was better. It has less Tylenol in it. So that was something that people would do, is say that they were allergic to it, because it is a common allergy. People are very commonly allergic to that. And they would give you a better pain pill.
Yeah, I used to doctor shop.
Yeah.
But it was a lot easier. It was, what do you want?
Right.
120 Roxy 30s and 120 bars.
Right.
All right, here you go. See you next month.
I know. It and thankfully times have changed, but yeah, it was such a different ball game back then.
Ago. Yeah, this was like 9 years ago that I started going there. And you had to get a referral from like another patient.
Yeah.
It's not like, like, oh, you need a doctor's referral to come here. It's like, no, you need a patient referral. We need to know you're cool.
Right. Isn't that wild?
Wow. Yeah, like, do you have insurance? Oh, I do. Okay, we don't take insurance, only cash. Cash only, no checks.
Right,
either.
no checks.
Bring the cash.
No card, right. They made it too easy.
Yeah, and then you sit in the waiting room and there's like 40 people and there's like it's like a living room waiting room and you're like just cramped and you're like, how are they going to see all of us in an hour?
Right.
In and out.
Wild.
Fucking revolving door. Yep. They ended up getting shut down though. I got a phone call from the front desk. I was, I'm friendly with everybody, so she calls me up. She was like, hey, I know you were just here 2 weeks ago, but we just got raided. You better get here and get your script because they just got arrested.
Oh my God.
But your script's sitting on my desk. So come in, I'll just hand it to you and you can leave. No money's exchanged. It's your last one. It's going to be your last one, but come get it.
Holy shit.
I was like, be there in 10.
Right.
I think it was in Merchantville. And I shot up, right past where the DMV, where you do the driver's test and shit. I was there in like 10 minutes flying.
No way.
Yeah. But that was like 2014, I believe, when they got finally shut down.
Wow.
So,
Thank God.
Yeah. So when you really like, you're bringing this around school, like, and doing it, does anybody else in school know that you're like sniffing lines in the bathroom?
Yeah, the people who bought with me.
You were like, there was other girls with you that you would go into the bathroom and.
It wasn't girls. So no, there was no other girls that would do it with me. Now later, while in school, now later down the line, I had a friend that tried it under my advice, like an asshole. Thankfully, she's still alive and she never got addicted. She just doesn't have that, gene, I don't think. She was able to just do it every now and then, where that wasn't the case for me. Yeah, I kept it super low key. It's not a drug to be proud of. It's not like a social drug, like weed, or which, I would classify as not that a drug, but it was just not something that you talked about because it's, people looked at you differently. So I kept it super low key. Still to this day, I'm more open now than I've ever been, but it took me a long time to like.
Why is that now that you think you're more open now than you've ever been? What's changed? We can jump around. I'm just curious.
Absolutely. I'm more established now. I have my own place. I'm a mother to my kids, and I'm, that's, people tell me all the time that I'm a great mom. I'm not good at a lot of things, but motherhood has been, the best part of my life. And I think with being established and having people look at me as, a good person, they're less reserved. They're more reserved to judge me. I think that if I was in a place, even my early 20s, where I was couch surfing with one of my kids and didn't have my own car and stuff, if I told people then, they'd be like, wow, because I wasn't, they would be like, no wonder, like that makes sense, why you are where you are now. But it's now that I am where I am, it's more of like a triumph story at this point, and it's made me feel more comfortable because you can see that people can change and they can be good people and productive members of society and be good mothers. And I just think that something in me shifted, and I guess the shame just started dwindling because I'm comfortable in my life right now. So the shame, the comfortability kind of overtook the shame. And so now I'm more open than ever.
It has to also help probably that like people are like actively like writing about and talking about like their past more like on social media, like
100%. Yes.
Like the stigmas are like they're not gone. They're not gone whatsoever, but they are being turned down.
More accepted. Yes. 100%. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, not just me personally, but on the broad spectrum of things, 100% right. That it's less stigmatized now definitely has helped me
it was
be more open about it.
Yeah, it was much worse back, before.
100%. And I want to add, with me telling my story, that helps fight the stigmatism. Or, like there's no, it helps battle that by me telling my story. So, it just adds to that movement. And you are 100% right. Absolutely. Yeah.
So when you're like what, a freshman and sophomore, and you're getting high every day.
Every day.
But you're working a lot.
Working every day, getting high at work. Sorry to my boss at the time who will probably see this.
Well, they might have known,
Yeah, you're right.
They might have known at least something was up.
Yeah. Right.
So, I mean, that's the thing. So, yeah, you're working every day because you have to support the habit. So you have to work hard.
Yep. And I was getting paid under the table, and I worked so much. I was making bank at the time, and I had nothing to show for it.
So were you lying to your family about how much you were actually working? So
100%.
Okay, that's what I've done too. We're like, no, I didn't have to work today, but really I did like an 10-hour shift so that I could make all that money and not say anything about the money. Okay. Like when I was delivering pizzas, I would make like $300 and I'd be like, slow night, made like $20.
Right.
Really spend it all. Like.
Absolutely. It's
Okay.
crazy that I didn't even know that other people did that.
Oh,
But
yeah.
that was absolutely my technique. Yep.
Yeah, I always like the thing is when you had to be a good liar, you had to have the full conversations with whoever you're going to talk to before you talk to them.
Yep.
So like I would have to have a full conversation with my dad out loud with myself. Be like, okay, if I say this, he's going to say that. So if I say this, he's going to say that. So if I say this, and that, I'll be in the clear because my answers will line up. And then I'll be ready to go because if I stall any second on my answers, you're going to know I'm lying.
Game over, right?
Because
that is so funny. Yeah, I do that too. That conversation in your head. I would do that to make sure that I had an answer for any reaction.
I rehearsed that like while I was driving home, like out loud. Like this is like later in my addiction. And I lived with my dad more as like a roommate, my brother and I, and we ran a business together.
Yeah.
And I would be driving home from Jersey. I would drive from Lancaster to Jersey 4 times a week to pick up pills and drive back again.
Wow.
So I'd be driving back like, all right, what's your excuses going to be?
Right.
What's your reasonings? All your answers, because I talk so fast.
Yeah.
My family knows how fast I talk.
Right.
So, and they know I don't really have to think because of how fast I talk. I think even faster.
Right.
So if I stall on an answer, I'm automatically going to be lying to you.
Yeah.
And they know that. Everybody knows that. So I always had to be like
on the ready. Yeah.
With my answers or else. Like,
had the ammo in the head. Yeah.
Yeah. My dad knows me way too well. So I always had to be like 2 steps ahead to feel like, but even then I feel like he still knew and just,
right.
My dad's a smart
yeah, the power of denial. It's so powerful. Yeah, absolutely. And I think the same thing with my parents is that they had to have known,
We're the oldest.
Yeah, we're the oldest.
So,
and I'm glad that I am, because I would hate to think of my siblings going through any of that. I'm glad that I was the poster child of what not to do. Yeah.
Well, now as a parent, like, we don't know what we're doing. We're figuring it out as we go along. And then I was like, oh, no wonder in my parents, there was even no internet for answers back in the 80s.
And it is so funny you say that, because I just think to myself, I think it's hard enough as it is today. And I have the access at my fingertips. I don't know how the hell my parents did it. And now that I'm 33 with 3 kids, which I can't even believe, like, that I'm a parent, I still feel like I'm 20. And I remember because I had my oldest at the same time that my mom had me. We were the same age, 20. I'm 21. I had just turned 21. And I remember being 12 or 13 and my mom being 33 or 34 and just thinking she was so old. She was old. And now I'm there and I'm like, I ain't old and I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I thought my mom had her shit together. She knew all the answers, like, we're just faking it until we make it is what it comes down to.
And my parents were 24.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had me at 24. So they, no idea.
No clue. You just wing it every day. And it just,
Well, and I saw the progression too, like looking back, because I had my brother and my sister. I'm 3 years older than my brother and 9 years older than my sister. I wasn't allowed to do shit, so I did everything.
Right.
And then my brother, he was allowed, the rule was, we lived in Massachusetts at the time, and he was in high school, and the rule was he was allowed to drink in the basement when his friends were having a sleepover, and my mom would go pick it up for them.
Yeah.
And leave the beer in the basement, no hard stuff.
Right.
And then by the time my sister's in high school, now they're back in Audubon. She's in Audubon like we were. And she is throwing huge parties.
Right.
Like just collecting keys now.
Wow.
Now we're just collecting keys.
Right.
Right.
And
I remember the one time the cops came and they walked into the backyard and they saw, I forget who was the cop at the time, but they saw like 3 different cops' kids. In the backyard. They're like, well, just keep it down.
Keep it down, right? Yeah.
And then left, because there was cops' kids there.
Yeah.
Like, it was just the progression. And then my sister, has an amazing job, bought a house in her early 20s. Brother, same thing, amazing. He's killing it. And then
there was more leniency. There's no need to like rebel or no need to,
It really just learning on the fly. Learning on the fly is what they were doing as parents. Like, okay, we have to let them do some stuff or else we're gonna have another
JD. Because this didn't work. So we got to try a new technique. Right. And that's why
So
anytime my baby sister, she's about to be 18, but anytime she messes up, she's hard on herself. And I'm like, just remember this, sis. You ain't nothing compared to me. You are an angel, sweet little baby. Don't be so hard on yourself. Because if I grew up to be this good of a person, you're going to grow up to be even better. So,
yeah. Are you
that's
the
what I
oldest of
tell her.
three?
I'm the oldest of three. Yeah. I have me
Just
and my sister, she's 30. And then my baby sister, she's about to be 18 in October.
so when is it the first time you get in trouble now? Because I'm sure you're gonna have to get in. Did you feel withdrawals yet at all?
No. So, fortunately, I only snorted heroin. Now I know that doesn't really make a difference, like when it comes to the addiction, but I only shot up once, maybe twice. I think that when you get to, and the only reason that I didn't shoot up was because I was terrified of it. Not terrified of needles, but I was just scared of it. I thought that if I progressed to that point, there was going to be no return. So I always had like this cognitive, like, I didn't want to die.
Yeah.
I knew that was for sure. I just wanted to be high. Um, and I never got in trouble with the law. But like I said, I never went to go get it. I maybe went one time to go into Camden to get it. Um, and yeah, I just kept it low key. So I never got like busted at that point yet. But I guess so this would probably be the saddest, craziest part of my story, and that's the death of a friend. That was such a crazy time, and I don't think a lot of people know the story of what actually happened, and I really want to tell it. Um but what had happened was he was a person that we would buy from, because our regular dealer was in and out of jail all the time. There was never there was, and he went to rehab a lot, and you know, um, but my boyfriend at the time was one of the only people that we kicked it with that had a car. He had a truck, and so he'd be given rides all the time. And this person had called him really late one night, probably early in the morning, like midnight one, and he goes, he we didn't answer the phone because we were like, we're not trying to get involved with anybody right now. And he left a voicemail, and he was like, yo man, he was like, I really need a ride. If you pick me up, I have a bag for you know and we listened to the voicemail, and we're like, fuck. There was three of us. It was me, my boyfriend, and our friend kicking it. And we were coming off, we had done all of our drug supply for the night. And we're like, shit, we're at the point now where we at least have to do, I started doing 1/4 of a bag like a day. Now I'm at the point where I have to do an entire bag every time, you know?
Every
So
time, not
every
even a
time.
day.
No, not even a day. So I would probably get high like 2 or 3 times a day, and it's required a bag every time. And that's what's crazy is your tolerance builds so quick on that, you know. And when you're snorting it too, it goes a lot longer when you're shooting up, but it's way more intense high, but it doesn't last as long. When you snort it, the high isn't as intense, but it lasts longer. And so we call him back up, and we're like, bro, is there any way, like, do you have more than one bag? Like, there's three of us. Like, we're not going to get high splitting a bag in thirds. And he's like, no, dude, like, that's all I got. And we're like, fuck it, whatever. So I stay home, and the two boys that I'm with, they go and pick them up. And they get the bag, they come back. Oh my God, this is so wild. I don't even think I've talked about this out loud, like, to anybody. maybe my boyfriend, I don't know, but he they come back, we split this stupid ass bag into thirds, and we do it. And immediately I knew something was wrong. I knew something was so wrong because my ears started ringing uncontrollably. I couldn't hear anything. My heart was beating out of my chest. I wasn't high. I was just, or maybe I was so high that I didn't even fucking know. My bones were hurting. I was like, something's fucking wrong, you know? Something's wrong. And my boyfriend said the same thing. He was like, something's not right. And the other person we were with, he's like, bro, I'm heading home. You know, I got to get out of here. Something's not right. And we're like, what the, you know, because they cut that shit with anything. You know, I would hit a line. I would taste carpet freshener. To this day, I can't use carpet freshener. Baby powder. To this day, I can't use baby powder. You know, corn. They would cut that shit with anything. Any fucking thing. There's like this certain smell in the lawn and garden center of Walmart that I don't know what the fuck it is, but it reminds me of something that I have ingested. You know, and I avoid the lawn and garden center. I go in and out. You know, like it's shitty. But you know, they'll cut that shit with anything. I'm like, what the fuck did they cut this with? So I'm looking up online. Now my mom worked nights. So we were at my house when we did this, and sorry, Mom. And she came home, and I'm like, Mom, I'm going to be honest with you. I said, no, I wasn't completely honest with her, and this is going to be her first time hearing this if she watches this. I said, Mom, I took a pill, and I think it's fucking me up. And she was like, well, what's going on? What's your symptoms? What did you take? I said, I don't know what I took. You know, because I didn't want to say something, you know, I just wanted to keep it anonymous. I was like, I don't know what it is, Mom. It was a white pill, you know, just kept it super ambiguous. And so she's getting on the computer and she's like, well, what are your symptoms? And I'm just fucking violently puking. I'm shaking. My bones are hurting. I'm like physically shaking. My ears are ringing. I was like, there's this ringing in my ears. I can't hear anything. I was like, I'm sick, Mom. She calls the poison control center and they're like, it sounds like she ingested aspirin and she may have an aspirin allergy, which turns out I do have an aspirin allergy and there probably was aspirin in it. They said, as long as she doesn't spike a fever, as long as she's vomiting and conscious, you know.
Yeah, vomiting's good.
Yeah, she should be okay. And that was exactly it. I was vomit, you know, it didn't spike a fever. I was, you know, sick as fuck, but I was okay. And my boyfriend at the time too. So it fucked him up. Like, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't nearly as bad as me. And it was probably because there was aspirin in it and I had an allergy. And but oh my God, I was so fucked. Well, it turns out the next day we get a phone call that this person that we had just picked up and took to his home, that he OD'd and he was dead. So that same shit that killed him, we did. The only thing that saved us is because we had to split it into 3. You know what I mean?
And you sniffed it.
And sniffed it. And I can't imagine if he was like, yeah, you know, I have plenty, like, here, y'all can have your own bag. I wouldn't be here. I would not be here. There'd be no way. You know, because that shit was cut with fentanyl. And, you know, we were the last people to see him alive. I wasn't, but, you know, by association, I was. And that shit went around school. You know, people said that we killed him. You know, it got mixed around. They thought that we sold it to him, you know, which we didn't sell. Like, there was no way I was selling. I was getting high. If I had it, I was doing it, period. You know, I've never sold ever in my life. We never did. You know, we weren't out to make money. We were out to get high. We were always trying to find somebody to get it from. You know, the whole reason Yeah. And that really like fucked with me in school because, you know, later on, and even then, like, people didn't even know like I was involved, it was just the two that went to go pick him up. But one was my boyfriend, obviously, and that's when people started to get suspicious about it. And but still no concrete evidence that I was doing anything, because I still looked normal. And that was really hard because, even going to his funeral, like, which I had the right to go to, he was one of my friends, a good friend. And, people looking at us like we were just like the worst fucking people on earth. And, obviously that wasn't the time and place, and there's no time and place to talk about that because, I don't have to correct myself and correct the story because people have the right to grieve, and, I would never want to interrupt that with like, well, you don't know the real story. I just let people believe what they believed because I felt like it would like help with their healing, or, something. Like, I didn't want to intrude on that. And so people believed for a long time that since we sold him that bag, and that wasn't the case at all. We did the same thing that he did. And by the grace of God, there was 3 of us there that night that had to split it. And I got so sick. If I would have done a bag, even sniffing it, if I would have done a bag to my dome, I would be, there would have been 2 funerals, 3, 4, for all of us. And it's just so, and even then, and by the grace of God, he left that voicemail because the cops got a hold of us because we were the last ones to see him alive. And my boyfriend had that voicemail on his phone. And that is what,
so he was able to play for the cops saying, look,
100%, look, we didn't sell this to him. Yeah. We got it from him.
Yeah.
We
got sick too.
Got sick as hell. I was still sick. From that third of that bag, I was sick for days. That was the only time that I went days without doing it. So I think that on top of my sickness, I was going through a withdrawal, and, I was on my couch. It literally felt like my bones were shaking. I was so violently ill. It was insane. And that was the only
2006.
Yeah, we had to be like 16 or 17.
Okay.
Because my boyfriend was driving. So we had to be 17 at the time. And yeah, and that person that passed away, I had gotten high with him dozens of times. We had good times. Good times in the moment. Looking back on it, it's not good times.
Yeah, I know.
Worst times of my life, but
yeah.
And that was just the shittiest part of this whole thing. And then even after that, even coming that close to death, as soon as I was feeling better, first thing I did was get high. Didn't give a shit. And I didn't want to die.
Did you know you were withdrawing though?
I was so sick. No, because the ringing in my ears was still going on, like I was just bombarded, and I'm sure that I was going through, I'm sure of it, because I felt like I had the flu times a bazillion, but I had that ringing in my ears. And I think like after how sick I was when that night unfolded, like I just kind of, that overshadowed it, and I just kind of lumped it all into the reaction from that bag. But no, I'm sure I was going through withdrawal. I'm sure of it. I mean, yeah. I had been going 3-4 years strong every single day.
Well, yeah, I noticed that a lot of people, including myself, the first time you withdraw, you don't know you're withdrawal until you withdraw again, and then you realize, oh shit, that was, so I was wondering if you fall into that category, and it sounds like,
That's exactly what it was. And you're exactly right, because it wasn't until I actually withdrawn where, when I took myself off of it, because I just quit cold turkey, which is not the safest thing to do, but I did. I realized, this is exactly how I felt. when I was laying on that couch for, it was like 3 or 4 days.
So wait, let me catch up.
Okay.
So now you're 16, 17.
17.
He passed away.
Mm-hmm.
You've been doing this for like 3 years.
Yeah.
Every day, basically every day.
Every day, basically.
Yeah,
I mean, every day.
Yeah. Yeah.
At least once a day, but more times if I could.
And you weren't going through any withdrawals in that time because you're doing enough to keep
Yep.
going.
Mm-hmm.
And then he passes, you get sick, you're out of commission for a few days.
Yep.
And then you're like, all right, feeling better, gonna go get high.
Yep.
How long does that run last now?
Okay, so this is another thing that I haven't talked about, that this will be full disclosure. Found out I was pregnant around that time, and
At
I was
17?
yeah, it was like 16, 17. I think I was turning 17. It was right around that time. And I was like, holy shit, like, this is wild. I can't have a baby. This is crazy. So I quit for like a day or two because I wasn't sure what I was going to do. And then I realized, then I started to get sick again, and I needed to do heroin. And I was like, that trumped it. I was like, look, I know for a fact I can't quit heroin right now. I know for a fact I don't want to have a baby. So I ended up having an abortion. And I did that. I was high the whole time. I knew that the second when I found out I was pregnant and still wanted to use and still did use, I knew once I like contaminated my baby or my fetus, I was like, no, this ain't gonna happen, So took a little break there, but then picked it right back up again. And
who took care of that then? Money, what? Like family know, or?
At the time, the only person that knew, and thank you for keeping this secret if you watch this, was my boss that I worked at the time, because I was supposed to work that night. And my boyfriend took me in to have the procedure, and he was just honest with him. He was like, look, she can't work. This is what happened. And, I ended up getting the next couple of days off or whatever. But eventually I told my mom, when I came clean to her about everything. That was one of the things I came clean to her about. But at the time that it happened, it was just my boyfriend and I that had known about it. Because that's another shameful thing that has a lot of stuff attached to it. But, it was the choice of carrying a child that I wasn't ready for and continuing to use heroin, or, because I knew I wasn't going to stop. There was just no way. And it's super selfish of me, but it's just the facts of the matter. It's just the facts of life. So that was, it's such a hard decision, and not one that was taken lightly, but that was just the way that it had to go. And that's what I did,
That's the best thing you could have did for everybody involved.
Right.
Even your boyfriend.
Yeah. 100%.
That was the best thing you could have did for him too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Because he obviously wasn't ready to be a father. No. Was he ready to quit?
No, hell no.
Exactly. So if he was like, hey, Irene, I'm going to quit. Let's quit together. We'll do this right. We'll make it work. We're going to quit. We'll get some subs. We'll figure it out. Then It's like, okay, I'm not doing this alone.
Right.
But if you're looking at him like, hey, I'm pregnant. And he's like, oh no. What are we gonna do?
Exactly. 100%. And that was the thing too. But even then, even if he gave me that promise, because we had tried to quit a bazillion times, and it lasted half a day, where we were like, look, we got to, especially after our friend had passed, because we're like, dude, like, this drug doesn't discriminate, it'll take anybody at any time for any fucking reason, and it doesn't matter, And we tried, and even if that promise and that plan was made, like, the follow through, I probably even still would have made the decision, because there was no promise of that follow through. What I mean?
No, I'm just
But you're absolutely right.
I'm 100%
right.
Hypothetically,
yep.
Like, if he would have been like, you know what, I'm quitting.
Right.
Like, and you can tell in someone's even tone
Yep.
When they're done, they're done. You know, the whole like, I can't do this anymore. And with the tears, whenever there's tears, it's always like, I'm in pain.
Yep.
And I'll wait for the next one. And I'm just going to complain until the next one.
Yep.
But when someone's serious about quitting, you can see it in their eyes.
Yeah.
And then you would feel it. And then from there, you would be more comfortable to make that decision.
Yep.
But obviously, that wasn't the case.
Not at all. Yeah. But you are 100% right. Absolutely. And then another short little lapse, which this is wild, which if my mom watches this, she also doesn't know this. Whew.
Sorry, Mom.
All right. But I'm a good person now, and she's super proud of me, you know, and what matters is right now, you know, and she has the right to know, you know, I am her spawn. So I ended up getting pneumonia really bad. And I have a heart condition, and I couldn't breathe. And so I went to the emergency room, and they ended up putting me on the cardiac ward because it was putting so much stress on my heart that they were scared. And I ended up being in the hospital for about a week. I couldn't get up to pee or anything because like they were basically like, you're 2 steps away from a heart attack, you know, like you can't take any steps. So I'm strapped to this bed. And they also said I had scar tissue on my heart. And I'm like, well, weird. And they're like, you know, it's usually like that's an indicator of drug use, you know, like do you use? And I was like, nope, hell no, because they were giving me pain meds there, you know, they were making me comfortable. And so of course I was like, nope, not me, never did a drug in my life, you know.
They didn't drug test you?
No, not that I know of. If they did,
you would have known. You would have signed for it.
Yeah, no. But then again, I was young too, you know, so maybe that had something to do with it. And I didn't look like a drug addict, you know, like I said, like it was so low key, you know, like I just looked like a girl, you know, like a regular ass girl. And at the hospital, cathetered because I couldn't go anywhere, you know, couldn't even shit on my own, you know, and that was fucking fun. But
let's be real, opiates, you weren't shitting anyway.
Right, straight up, 100%, 100%. You got that motherfucking right. And the crazy thing is even literally so sick in the bed, I called up my boyfriend. I'm like, hey, is there anywhere you can bring me up any? And I did it every day. He would come up and I would do some. Even laying there, like so sicker than I've ever been. You know,
Did you use like the bed thing to like raise up in order to do it off the little table?
No, it was like, I think there was some kind of book or something.
The Bible?
It could have been the Bible. God, oh my gosh.
Don't worry. I know somebody who's done worse things with it. I know people, I've heard a lot of stories about Bibles and the big book and what people have done with them after they've relapsed.
Right.
So don't worry.
The perfect surface space. What can we do? But yeah, that's what it was on. And yeah, that was even then. But I was coming about to where I was getting sick of it. And actually, the thing that changed my mind, and God bless these people for doing what they did, but 2 of my friends who were also in active addiction, they just shipped off to the army, and they came back and they were clean and they were doing good, still are to this day as far as I know. And it was crazy because, you know, I basically felt like I was on my deathbed, you know, and I was still doing it even then. But at that point, I think I was getting older and I was dwindling, you know, like I wasn't just getting the effect that I used to get, you know, it wasn't fun for me anymore. Because I always had in the back of my mind that I didn't want to do it forever. I didn't want to die. And, you know, which is one of the reasons why I didn't shoot up, because I was terrified of it. And but after seeing those two people who were addicts, the same as me, you know, we'd get high and stuff all the time. After they came back from the army, they were clean, they looked good, they were making good choices. We were using in front of them, and they were like, "No, we're good," you know. And I was just like, I want that. I want that. And it was not a couple days after that I was like, I'm telling my mom. I'm telling my mom, and I'm joining the army. And that was it. I knew once I told my mom. And at this point, higher on, especially after our friend had passed and the police investigated us and stuff, like, my mom was 100% suspicious. You know, she would tell me all the time, I know you're fucked up. My neighbor across the street, who also passed away, I was always going over to his house, you know, and him coming out. So my parents knew. And apparently my stepdad, which I still don't even know the true story, like, he's sober now, but apparently he struggled with some kind of addiction when he was younger. He went to a rehab or whatever. So he knew the signs too, you know. They would question me constantly, and they would ground me, and, you know, but they never took that step, you know. And it's because really, and which one of my, you know, it's a quote from one of my favorite movies, and a quote that I live by, you know, which I think I said earlier today. It's never underestimate the power of denial. You know, it is such a force, you know. And I think that my parents really did struggle with denial, because it was out of my character to be that way. And so I told my mom. I finally went to her, and I was like, Mom, I've been doing heroin for the last couple of years. I want to stop. I had an abortion. And my mom was like, I knew it. And this stops today. Today it stops. So, and I had been tapering off at that point, because I knew that it would be easier for my withdrawal symptoms. So I had been tapering off. And so my withdrawal wasn't really that bad. It was still pretty bad, but it wasn't that bad. I stopped that day after I told my mom, because I knew there was no going back. Once my mom knew for sure, with the words coming out of my mouth, she would come hell and high water. It wasn't going to happen. They locked me up in the house. My mom would drug test me all the time. I had already gone to my recruiter. I had my day set out. I was still smoking weed, but that was it. But I had to be completely clean to go to MEPS and ship out. And basically, after I met with my recruiter, took my test, he was like, you know, what job do you want? I was like, I want first available shipment. You know, as soon as I can pass this drug test, I want to be shipped the next day, basically. So they picked my MOS, and it was 30 days out, I think, or something. And went to boot camp and completed it, did my boot camp, my IIT and everything. I was sober the whole time, obviously, you know, and came back and never touched it again. That was it. That was basically my rehab. Was first confessing to my mom, and then go, because I knew that there was no way out. With a rehab, you can just leave.
No, they tell you that too. They literally tell you that. Like, someone's like, I remember being in rehab. I only went to rehab once. I waited 10 years to go into rehab, because I knew I was going to go when I was ready, and that was it.
Absolutely.
I knew I was an addict right away, and I said, no, I'm going to go when I'm ready. I'm not ready yet.
Yeah.
So, but I remember somebody in rehab going, this is bullshit. I want to leave. And like, one of the people there was like, then fucking leave.
Right.
The doors aren't locked, bro.
Right.
There's no fence around this. We're in a house in Los Angeles. Fucking leave. Just know, as soon as you walk off that driveway, we're putting your suitcases at the end of it for you to fucking pick up. You're not coming back.
And that's exactly it. I knew with the army that you can leave, but it's a long ass motherfucking process. They keep you there until they process you out, which I think is like a torture form. They make you stay there through the whole duration of the boot camp. You were supposed to be there, but you're just confined to like a room, and you can go to chow hall and stuff, So I knew that I had to be locked in somewhere. Jail wasn't an option, I mean, it could have been an option, but it wasn't an option for me. And that was it. That's what I did. And then graduated from the Army, got pregnant with my first son, thank God, because I feel like getting out of the Army, I could have relapsed for sure. I could have 100% relapsed. But basically, immediately after getting out of the Army, I got pregnant with my first son. And I knew then, because I had already made the choice to have an abortion, and it weighed heavy on me. I know it was the right choice, but it's still, it's still painful to think about. And I knew that I didn't want to make that choice again. I knew that I was in a better place now. I'm sober. I'm older. I can do this. And my son, really, he saved my life. Once I found out I was pregnant with him, I stopped smoking cigarettes, no drinking, no nothing. I was the healthiest I could be, because my unborn child deserved that. And then he was born. I moved out to the Midwest where his father's from, because it is cheaper to live out here. I was going to be in my mom's house with a baby and my baby daddy in our, 3-bedroom bungalow, on Pine Street. Or I could get my own apartment, my own place, which we got a house, for, $600 a month. It's so much cheaper out here. And that I made the choice to come out here. And then I realized I wasn't surrounded. Heroin's not an epidemic out here like it is on the East Coast. It is meth out here. And meth, I've never done meth, thank God. Never been curious about it. Downers are my thing. Uppers are not my thing.
Same. Yeah, meth is huge around where I am because
really
it's rural.
Yeah.
I'm in rural PA, so
which makes sense because it's rural here too.
You hear of houses exploding in the newspaper all the time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And from that, and the other, actually, it's coincidentally, I interviewed somebody else from your area.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but his drug of choice was actually porn.
No way. Wow.
Yeah, like literally was addicted to porn.
Yeah, which is huge out here too. Like you could drive down the highway and there will be nothing, but there will be a porn store.
Well, he was married for a long time. Him and his Christian wife were married. Yeah. And, she shut off for him to be able to go on a computer and all that.
Wow.
So he was stealing money from his restaurant that he worked at to pay for porn from those places that you're talking about.
Yep.
Because he was that hard up.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's wild. Developed friendships and stuff here, and I was no longer surrounded by it. There was no temptation. I think that I give so easily into temptation. Once an addict, always an addict. I have that. I strongly believe I have a gene, passed on to me.
It's more of an obsession of the mind that we have, where it's like once we get it, we need it every single day. But once we get far enough away from it, that's good. Yeah. Someone always said to me, right now we have the choice, but as soon as we use it again, we lose that choice, and that has all the power.
Yeah.
So, that's something that I always definitely keep in mind is, we do have a choice right now.
Yeah,
but
for
if
sure.
I was to get high, I lose that choice. And it's not
absolutely. And, now that I'm a mother, my whole perspective's changed, because I just can't imagine my kids going through a life and doing the things that I did. I want to be the best role model for them. And I want, them to, and I'm sober from heroin, because that's my drug of choice. And it's like, and same with narcotics, any surgeries or anything, like I don't take any pain medicine. Like I know that once I do it one more time, I would just rather die. My story isn't as intense as a lot of people's, but it is, but everybody's journey is different. And some people are going through the same journey as me, you know what I mean? Yep. Or have, and it's just good to hear so many different perspectives and so many different, triumph stories and, non-triumph stories too. everything helps. This is so important. You doing this, it's so important. These kind of
Thank
things,
you.
and I just so appreciate you dedicating your life to helping others and getting that word out and letting people speak their truths. And that's just, it's great. We need a million more people doing it. A billion more.
Or a bazillion,
A bazillion,
as you
right?
like to say. I appreciate it. I love doing this, and I'm not going to stop doing it. I love helping
Good.
people either in person, or if they can't get a hold, they can't see me in person, find
Right.
us online and message us.
Yep.
If you go to our page, like our MJ's Progress of Perfection page,
Uh-huh.
it says replies very rapidly. Like no lie,
Awesome.
like we respond within seconds if we
Right.
can.
Good, good,
So
good.
yeah, but
Because
thank you
time is
again.
crucial.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Well,
it
thank you,
definitely is.
JD.